Good evening and welcome back to CBS 19 Special Election Night coverage. I'm Brennan Gurley.
And I'm Ayana Aird. From high-profile statewide races to key contests right here in East Texas. Results are beginning to come in. And over the next hour, our team will break down the numbers, track the tight races, and show you what these early results could mean moving forward.
And to help break it all down, we're joined again live by Dr. Wink, Associate Dean with UT Tyler and an expert on Texas elections, to give us insight in tonight's trends and what voters' choices could signal moving forward. Dr. Wink, thanks for joining us again.
Glad to be here.
Dr. Wink, first I want to get into what are some of the issues that are driving this race? Border security, property taxes, school choice, immigration?
You know, the polling that we did at UT Tyler shows that the economy is really on people's minds right now. And it's sort of interesting. Our polling at UT Tyler shows that people are down on President Trump a bit because of the national economy, but it doesn't seem to be hurting Republicans in Texas. Abbott still is doing well, as is Dan Patrick, and so it's kind of interesting.
And when it comes to races like governor of Texas, what's really at stake for everyday Texans?
Yeah, well, sure. If you're happy with the status quo and the way things are going, obviously, Republicans are the way to go. If you think it's time for a change, maybe Democrats are the way to go. But I think there's been some interesting races tonight. I think a lot of people have pointed out that we'll probably be back here voting again, and I'll be talking to you again in May because there are going to be a lot of runoff primaries.
And Dr. Wink, ultimately, what does the Senate primary say about the future direction of political power here in the Lone Star State?
Well, you know, it's what we're seeing, I think, is sort of a natural split. And both of the two parties have sort of, you know, the Republicans have very conservative faction and a more moderate faction, and the Democrats have a very liberal faction and a more moderate faction. And I think we're seeing that play out in the Senate races tonight.
And Dr. Wink, we've talked a lot about the primary season. A lot of voters typically, historically, do not show up to the polls to vote, but that certainly was not the case for this March primary. A lot of people did show up to vote, specifically the younger voters, the Democrats. What are you paying attention closely with the races tonight, and what is your response to the voter turnout?
Well, I think Democrats did turn out at higher rates statewide for sure, and higher rates than they usually do in Smith County as well. I think for two reasons. One, they're buying into sort of the anti-Trump rhetoric of the National Party, but also there are more competitive primaries on the Democratic side than normal this year. And let's face it, who wants to go vote in a primary if you already know what the outcome is going to be? So there, you know, your vote could literally make a difference.
And speaking of making a difference, how much influence does President Trump still have in Texas primaries?
I think an endorsement from President Trump in the Republican primary is very important, and I think others have already made mention of this fact, but I think it's very likely that the Cornyn-Paxton race will go to the runoff primary, and I really do think an endorsement of one of those candidates by President Trump could be decisive.
And Dr. Wink, another race that I've really kind of kept my eyes on throughout the night is the Agriculture Commissioner. Sid Miller has really been a strong focal point for President Trump, has really been a yes man for him. But on the other side of it, Governor Abbott has really been against him. And it's really showing the numbers right now when you talk about that support from President Trump that it's really Nate Sheets that's really got a strong lead as those numbers continue to roll in right now.
Right. That was an interesting race where, you know, usually incumbents have the advantage, but not so much in this one. As you said, different endorsements from different candidates. I think Sid Miller made some statement in support of medicinal marijuana or something like that. And that became a big, believe it or not, a big issue that probably worked to his disadvantage.
And many voters obviously face on the big statewide races like, you know, U.S. Senate and governor. Why should they also pay attention to county commissioner contests?
Well, certainly counties and cities do a lot for us. The things that we see on a day-to-day basis are roads and bridges being saved, potholes being filled, sheriff and police protection. These are things that affect us on a day-to-day basis. So certainly local races are important as well.
And I guess, Dr. Wink, just from your standpoint, is there a race that you're, paying attention to that voters may not be paying attention to and it deserves attention?
Well, I will tell you a couple of things to look at. One big surprise to me was on the Republican side in the Attorney General's race. I expected that to be very close. I think there were four viable candidates, but Mays Middleton has about 44% of the vote right now, so he's running a lot stronger than I thought. Maybe calling yourself MAGA Mays Middleton helps. I saw it so much, I thought maybe his first name was MAGA for a while there. And I'm also very interested in the Tallarico Crockett race. I thought Crockett would do better, but remember the Dallas votes are not in. I think we've made reference to this tonight. The Dallas polls are closing late on the Democratic side because of some technical problems or overcrowdedness or what have you. And so those results will come in late. And I suspect Dallas will go pretty heavily for Crockett, which could turn this into a runoff primary as well.
Yeah, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about that. Now Dallas County polls are extended their hours to 9 p.m. Do you think that'll be a big difference maker in the Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico race?
Well, as it turns out, it may very well be. I really thought Crockett would be doing better than she has, and so I don't think that the Dallas votes will cause her to run first. I think Tallarico is going to run first tonight, but because he's only at about 53%, if that vote is overwhelming enough, it could deny him the win tonight and force a runoff primary.
And Dr. Wink, just my final question for you. When you step back from the numbers as they continue to roll in, what is the broader story of this election and what is it telling?
Well, it's very interesting, the Democratic turnout. They are definitely juiced up about the possibilities of what could happen in November. But always remember, too, just the numbers show this, that Republicans in statewide races have a 6 to 8 point advantage. So for a Democrat to win an attorney general's race or a governor's race or a U.S. Senate race, they have to be a very strong candidate and run an excellent campaign because the numbers do not support them.
All right, Dr. Wing, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your insight this evening.